How are you all? I hope you had a lovely Christmas. I hope you got all the presents your heart desired. And now we are back. Welcome back. And we have, another caravan, another migrant caravan that started a Christmas Eve march throughout Mexico. This caravan has about 8,000 people, and the leader of the caravan, who happens to be a radical activist, says that the numbers before reaching the U.S. border could hit about 15,000. If you look at the slogan in the front of this migrant caravan, here's the picture right here. It says "Exodus from Poverty," which would indicate to me that they are coming for economic reasons. And although we have lots of empathy and sympathy and compassion for people around the world who are living in poverty, especially here in the U.S., where we've actually seen in the past 2 years, homelessness has risen, which is not surprising because we have imported a lot of people who have no job prospects and are dependent on the government for resources. And now across all U.S. cities, you have migrants sleeping in tents. So I'm going to get to the irony of this in just a second if you haven't figured out what it is already, because I'm going to tell you exactly what the leader of this caravan is saying. But note that if financial reasons are the reasons for claiming asylum, that is not a legitimate asylum claim. Unfortunately, political persecution is, religious persecution is, fear for your life, but simple economic reasons or escaping poverty is not a reason to seek asylum in the U.S. But what you have now, you have many people who, back in the day, once they arrived at the border, they would say that they're seeking asylum because of fear for their life or persecution. But now you have people that are so comfortable at the border. You have TV journalists going and interviewing people, and they're like, I'm here to work. I'm just here to work. Biden's letting me in. Which, hey, that's admirable. Who doesn't want a better life? But that is not a legitimate asylum claim. And most of these people, when they get here, they realize they're not able to work right away. You can't just come in and start working right away. You're not allowed to if you're not a legal citizen, or if you don't have proper work authorization. That takes time to get. So you have people coming over here thinking they're going to be able to work right away, and that's just not the case. And now they find themselves in impoverished situations, reliant on government resources, which are actually drying up in a lot of cases because so many people have entered our country illegally and are dependent on these resources that they're actually running out. You have people at Chicago, Denver, New York City sleeping outside in the cold. Keep in mind, yes, it is winter. And the past few months, every month has just been breaking the record of the month before. For instance, Allie Bradley, who's a journalist who frequents the border, just released this earlier today. According to CBP, already in the month of December, it's only the 26th, so it's not over yet. Already in the month of December, we've had over 250,000 encounters on the southern border. They're averaging about 10,000 people crossing illegally per day. It is getting to the point where people are now just being dropped off in suburbs and small towns all over the USA. They're running out of places to put people. And now this gentleman, who is a Christian, Luis Garcia Villagrán. Now it's interesting because when you look at what I call the mass migration industrial complex, depending on who it is and what they're doing and what they're assisting in, the motivations can be rather different. A lot of people, it is money. That's why I call it an industrial complex. There are charities, NGOs, and contractors who are making tons and tons and tons of money off this crisis. So clearly, that's what their motivation is. With this individual, his motivation is political, and that is typically what you see when you see these large caravans. It's always a political motivation. It takes a lot of organizing, a lot of coordinating to get all of these things together. And this guy in particular is the one who's been leading a lot of the migrant caravans. The last major one we had was back in July of 2022. And it was this guy that led it. He's very proud of himself. He is proud over the fact he says he's led over 40,000 migrants to the United States. So he's very proud of the work that he does. He says, we try to help people least protected, especially women and child migrants. Simply, we apply what is in the law. Well, if you are leading people to break into a country, to claim asylum when they don't meet the asylum standards, that's not exactly within the law. And it's interesting too, because he says he wants to protect children and women, and these are actually the least protected once they're in the United States. They're not legal citizens. We've already lost about 85,000 children in our system. We have no idea who they are or where they're with. When you're not here legally, you also don't have a lot of those legal protections that legal citizens do have, setting yourself up to get taken advantage of by many people. So I find it really interesting that he brings up women and children. They are of the most vulnerable, even when they get into the United States. Let's see. He says the organizer told the outlet, the Daily Caller, that he is not financed or assisted by external organizations and is motivated by his faith and a belief in the right of migrants to exit their impoverished origins. Again, I find that really interesting, because what happens with a lot of these migrants, they find out that they are just as impoverished here and don't have a lot of the same protections because they're not here on a legal basis. He was previously arrested in the Mexican state of Chiapas in 1997 on kidnapping and conspiracy charges, allegations he denied. He was convicted by a judge and sentenced to 40 years behind bars, but working with several human rights groups, he appealed his case and was eventually freed in 2010. As for this Christmas season and this caravan, he says, today we are the poorest of the poor, of those who are at the peak of need. Those of us who do not have money to pay for visas or Polaros. I don't know what that is. So a lot of his motivation, I've read other stuff by his, it seems to be he wants to put pressure on the United States to help out Latin American countries more, and he wants to put pressure also to accept people that are poor. And it's really interesting that he had such a colorful background, because typically with a lot of these activists, you see a bit of trouble in their background somewhere, which makes sense that this motivates what they're doing. Because the truth of the matter is, mass migration in this form, it doesn't help the people that are mass migrating, and it doesn't help the country they're going to. It also doesn't help the country they're coming from. So I always question motivations from people like this that are leading these large caravans. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll stay tuned on what's happening with this caravan and what happens when they reach the United States border. Our Border Patrol agents are completely overrun already. As you can imagine, they've had to shut down railways. They've had to shut down ports of entry because they are just completely overrun by what is happening. So we'll stay tuned. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye.